Cyber Threat Brief for July 12, 2026. Compromised NPM package JScrambler 8.14.0 drops rust in Fosteler targeting dev environments and CI pipelines. Microsoft patches on-prem SharePoint 0-day under active attack. GitHub ghost accounts running mass reconnaissance across organizations. Here's the full breakdown of today's top security stories. Daily Security Brief 2026-07-12. Next section, Critical Alerts. Microsoft SharePoint 0-day under active attack. Microsoft patches failed to fix on-prem SharePoint, which is now being exploited in the wild. The vulnerability affects on-premises SharePoint server deployments and is under active exploitation. Action: apply emergency patches to on-prem SharePoint immediately. Review access logs for unauthorized activity. If running SharePoint on-premises, treat this as a drop everything patch priority. Source: the Register. Compromised JScrambler 8.14.0 NPM package drops in Fosteler. NPM package JScrambler version 8.14.0 was compromised and published with a pre-install hook that deploys a Rust-based in Fosteler. Published July 11, the malicious release executes native binaries for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux during installation. Socket detected the compromise 6 minutes after publication. The payload targets developer environments and CI systems, harvesting AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud credentials, cryptocurrency wallets, MetaMask, Phantom, Exodus, Bitwarden vaults, browser passwords, Discord/Slack/Telegram sessions, and AI coding tool configs, Claude Desktop, Cursor, Windsurf. VS Code Z. The Linux binary includes eBPF capability for kernel-level persistence. Windows and Mac OS builds include anti-debugging and persistence mechanisms, scheduled tasks, and launch agents. The malicious version bypassed JScrambler's normal release process and was pushed directly to NPM under a compromised maintainer account. Version 8.13.0 is clean. Action: audit dependencies for JScrambler 8.14.0. If installed, assume credential compromise. Rotate cloud credentials, API, keys, and secrets accessible to affected systems. Check for persistence, Windows scheduled tasks named randomly, Mac OS launch agents, Linux eBPF programs. Block network indicators. Monitor for connections to Tor infrastructure and hard-coded IPs identified by step security. Roll back to JScrambler 8.13.0 or pin to that version. The package sees 15,800 weekly downloads, targeting build machines with elevated access. Source: the Hacker News. Next section, Ransomware and Extortion. Armenian national pleads guilty to Ryuk ransomware extortion. Karen Sarabovich-Varian, 34, extradited from Ukraine, pleaded guilty to conspiracy and computer fraud for his role in Ryuk ransomware attacks targeting U.S. companies, including a technology firm in Oregon. Varian was part of a coordinated extortion operation that deployed Ryuk to encrypt victim systems and demand ransom payments. Action: review endpoint detection for Ryuk indicators. Ensure offline backups are current and tested. Ryuk typically targets larger organizations with significant ransomware demands. Source: data breaches. Net. Ransomware negotiator sentenced for colluding with Black Cat. A former ransomware negotiator working for Digital Mint was sentenced to 70 months in prison for colluding with Black Cat threat actors. The negotiator provided inside information on victim defense strategies to the attackers, effectively working both sides of the extortion. This is the third co-conspirator sentenced in connection with Black Cat operations. Action: vet third-party incident response and negotiation firms. Limit information sharing with external negotiators to what is strictly necessary. This case underscores the risk of insider threats during ransomware incidents. Sources: data breaches. Net. Next section, Business and Infrastructure Threats. Ghost accounts abuse. GitHub API and mass reconnaissance threat actors are using dormant GitHub accounts, registered 5 years ago, to systematically enumerate organizations, repositories, and user accounts via the GitHub API. The campaign has been running since at least October 2025, using over 50 ghost accounts in bursts of 1-3 weeks. Attackers are leveraging publicly accessible API endpoints that return HTTP 200 responses without authentication, mapping organizations, members, and projects. Some campaigns also used inadvertently exposed tokens from legitimate users to access private repository commit paths. In rare cases, attackers successfully exfiltrated data from targeted organizations. The reconnaissance leverages GraphQL and REST routes with user agents mimicking data exfiltration, analytics, or dashboard tools. Action: enable GitHub audit log streaming and baseline normal user agent behavior in your environment. Hunt for anomalous user agents reaching private repositories. Review token usage logs for unauthorized access to private repos. Revoke and rotate any accidentally exposed GitHub tokens. Set up detections for unusual enumeration activity, rapid API calls, unfamiliar user agents, access patterns inconsistent with your org's baseline. Source: Security Week. Pakistani law enforcement targeted in multi-group espionage campaign, China-aligned and India-aligned threat actors compromised Pakistani law enforcement infrastructure between February 2024 and April 2026. Targets included Balochistan Police, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Police, Islamabad Police, and Punjab Safe Cities Authority. Compromised assets included network appliances, web servers hosting police and citizen data, biometric records, criminal case files, personnel records, and a Fortinet 40 mail appliance. A China Nexus actor deployed a custom implant masquerading as an update to the complaint management system, a portal used by police staff and citizens. 4 distinct malware families were deployed: PlugX, ShadowPad, Cobalt Strike, and Rimco's RAT. PlugX and ShadowPad are traditionally associated with Chinese nation-state groups. Rimco's RAT activity is linked to Mysterious Elephant, apt Advanced Persistent Threat, C08, apt K47, tag 179, which shares infrastructure and tactics with Indian Nexus actors Sidewinder, Confucius, and Bitter. Cobalt Strike command and control infrastructure, 142.171.183.8, also targeted government, academic, telecommunications, and NGO entities across South, East, and Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and South America. Action: if you manage government or law enforcement systems, audit network appliances and web applications for unauthorized modifications. Review 40 mail and other email gateway configurations for compromise. Look for PlugX, ShadowPad, Cobalt Strike, and Rimco's RAT indicators in endpoint telemetry. Block C2 IP 142.171.183.8. This campaign highlights the risk of supply chain and service provider compromise in sensitive government environments. Source: The Hacker News. Next section, General Security News. Signal phishing campaign by Russian actors. Russian threat actors are posing as Signal support staff to launch phishing attacks against Signal users. The campaign targets users of the encrypted messaging platform by impersonating legitimate support channels to harvest credentials or deliver malware. Action: remind users that Signal support does not proactively contact users or request credentials. Phishing awareness training should include examples of support impersonation. Monitor for suspicious Signal-related emails or messages. Source: The Register. TikTok class action alleges 2.4 billion user data breach. A class action lawsuit filed June 11, 2026. In the Central District of California, alleges TikTok exposed personal data of more than 2.4 billion users worldwide. The complaint claims TikTok stored unencrypted data and failed to implement basic security measures. Source: Data breaches. Net. Dutch police trace Odido telco cyber attack to local accomplice. Dutch police uncovered evidence suggesting Dutch criminals were involved in the cyber attack on telecom provider Odido that exposed personal data of over 6 million customers. A Dutch-speaking man posing as an Odido IT employee called the company's customer service department before the attack, indicating insider knowledge or social engineering to facilitate access. Action: train customer service and help desk staff to verify internal requests through secondary channels. Implement callback procedures for requests involving sensitive access or changes. Social engineering via phone remains an effective initial access vector. Source: Data breaches. Net. Next section, patch priority. On-prem SharePoint, emergency patch for 0-day under active attack. Microsoft Edge, Chromium. CVE 2026-58281 remote code execution via deserialization of untrusted data. JScrambler NPM package. Remove version 8.14.0, pin to 8.13.0, rotate credentials if compromised. Chromium-based browsers. Multiple CVEs in Dawn, Web USB, Angle, PDFim, Edge ingests Chromium fixes. Node-tar, CVE 2026-59874, Infinite Loop, Process Crash, DOS, and 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Next section, vulnerability disclosures. CVE 2026-58281, Microsoft Edge remote code execution deserialization of untrusted data in Microsoft Edge, Chromium-based, allows an unauthorized attacker to execute code over a network. EPSS, the exploit prediction scoring system, data not yet available. Action: update Microsoft Edge to the latest version. Block untrusted network sources where possible. Source: MSRC. Multiple Chromium CVEs in Microsoft Edge. Microsoft Edge, Chromium-based, ingests multiple Chromium fixes, including CVE 2026-14428, insufficient validation in Dawn, EPSS 0.3/17th percentile. Use after free in WebUSB, EPSS 0.1/4th percentile. Out of bounds read and angle, EPSS 0.2/16th percentile. Uninitialized use in Dawn, EPSS 0.2/13th percentile. Inappropriate implementation in PDFIM, EPSS 0.2/10th percentile. Type confusion in Tint, EPSS 0.2/13th percentile. Insufficient policy enforcement in Chrome for iOS, EPSS 0.3/17th percentile. Side channel information leakage in safe browsing, EPSS 0.3/20th percentile. Incorrect security UI in Chrome for iOS, EPSS 0.2/13th percentile. And object lifecycle issue in input, EPSS 0.2/14th percentile. And 9 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action: update Microsoft Edge and Chrome to the latest versions. Most of these CVEs have low EPSS scores, under 1% exploitation probability, but cumulative Chromium updates should be applied regularly. Sources: MSRC, 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 and 9 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Node tar CVEs, CVE 2026-59874, and 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. 3 CVEs affecting the Node tar NPM package. CVE 2026-59874, negative tar entry size causes infinite loop and archive replace. EPSS 0.4/28th percentile. Process crash via PAX numeric path type confusion, EPSS 0.4/28th percentile. And decompression/parse DOS via unlimited input, EPSS 0.4/28th percentile. And 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action: update Node tar to the latest patched version in Node.js environments. These are denial of service vectors that could crash applications processing tar archives. Sources: MSRC, 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 and 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. CVE 2026-15308, Python HTML parser DOS incremental HTML parser feed, allows CPU exhaustion DOS via repeated unterminated markup declarations. EPSS 0.6/42nd percentile. Action: update Python to the latest version if using HTML parser in production. This is a resource exhaustion attack that could hang services processing untrusted HTML input. Source: MSRC. Next section, Trends and Context. The JScrambler compromise is the latest in a series of supply chain attacks targeting developer environments and CI pipelines through NPM. Attackers are specifically harvesting cloud credentials, AI tool API keys, and cryptocurrency wallets from build systems. The GitHub Ghost Account Reconnaissance campaign highlights how adversaries are using dormant accounts and public API endpoints for systematic intelligence gathering before launching targeted attacks. That concludes today's cyber threat brief. From Carolina Clear Tech. Stay patched, stay vigilant.